This is a production of the Corporate Counsel section of the Atlanta Bar Association. It is being recorded, and we hope that we can, in the future, make these available on demand for folks who would like to come back and view quality content. Okay, great. And welcome to this second session of our new program called Counsel Connect. It is a program of the Atlanta Bar Association Corporate Counsel section. So the Atlanta Bar Association has about 3,000 members in Atlanta. The Corporate Counsel section is one of 22 sections, and our mission is to create connectivity, service opportunities, education, professional development for those in in-house roles and the attorneys at law firms and otherwise who serve those clients. We do have about 150 members in the section, and starting this bar year, which was fairly recently, we've set this new program called Counsel Connect in order to do broader outreach and broader provision of interesting content to other members of the Atlanta legal community. This is your board for this year. If any of us can be of help to you or you have interest in the section, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you. And this is our program for today. We have a fantastic guest, Brian Mink, who I got to know when he was originally at Troutman Pepper, and since then Brian has had a Fortune 200 legal operations role, a general counsel role, and is a co-founder and president of Data Science Connect, which on one measure I believe is the world's largest community for the data science industry and community. I'm sure he and Steve will talk a little bit more about that. Steve is our board host today. Steve's the Associate General Counsel for Antitrust at what is now Smurfit WestRock. Steve having adroitly helped navigate that through antitrust to a successful closing. With all that said, I'm going to hand it off to you, Steve, and let you start into the dialogue and join you on the other side. So have a great conversation.
All right. Thanks, Logan. Appreciate it. And thank you, Brian, for jumping on today. We appreciate it. So why don't we just start with what is Data Science Connect?
Sure. So Data Science Connect is the company that my wife and co-founder Amelia and I run. It's one of the largest data and AI communities in the world, and we're really about connecting folks to experts, solutions, and knowledge in the data and AI space, and that's across industries. So we work with, on one side, we work with a lot of Fortune 500 executives who are looking to build out data solutions at their organizations. And then on the other side, we work with the data solutions providers who are looking to connect with that audience. So we regularly do a variety of in-person and virtual educational content around data and AI across industries, and help to kind of facilitate those conversations and connections between the service providers and the folks who are looking to leverage those solutions.
What kind of events do you guys have?
So we do in-person executive events for primarily chief data officers, CIOs, CTOs, as well as heads of function like CFOs, chief legal officers, heads of HR, CEOs from very large organizations. So we do exclusive executive events for them and provide really high quality AI content, which is more relevant now than ever for educating various organizations about how they can leverage AI and what they need to do to prepare themselves to leverage AI effectively. We also do an annual trade show here in Atlanta. That's in October, our Collide trade show. And then we do virtual events all the time. We have webinars every couple of weeks for our solution providers to help reach our audience.
And can you give me an example of what a solution provider is?
Sure. So these are any software or hardware providers who are helping organizations leverage data. So that can be companies like Amazon Web Services, who's one of our clients, who is a cloud provider who's looking to reach various organizations who are looking to scale their cloud. And then there's all kinds of providers within that who are helping organizations do things with their data or helping them leverage AI. So basically anyone who is helping organizations leverage data or use AI is someone that we would typically work with as a client.
How did Data Science Connect get started?
Yeah, so I guess my journey's been kind of a surprising one, not one that I ever envisioned when I was in law school. So you would think probably based on what I do today that I had some kind of technical background. I really didn't. So all of this kind of developed when I was a junior attorney, drafting a lot of commercial real estate documents, and found myself doing a lot of things that were repetitive over and over and over again. So through that, I started figuring out, well, are there ways to automate this? So I started working when I was at Troutman Pepper, and with the firm's support, working on a lot of automation initiatives, automating our contracts, and then discovered that in that process, a lot of that data could be captured. So when you automate something, you're basically putting things into a structured data format. The data basically is getting dumped into a database, similar to a spreadsheet in Excel. So once you have that data, you can do all kinds of exciting things with it. So I started really getting interested in data. Around that time, met my wife, who was trained as a data scientist and was working in the healthcare space, which actually has a lot of parallels to legal in terms of where they are from a data standpoint, which is not very far along. It's basically what that is, and so at that time we sort of started growing this community that she had built, Data Science Atlanta, and we ultimately turned that into a company, Data Science Connect. That was all sort of going on in parallel while I was climbing the corporate ladder, I guess, doing legal operations at Norfolk Southern, and then eventually became general counsel at In-Town Suites, which is one of the largest extended stay chains in the U.S. So then a couple of years ago, we had gotten our business to the point where I was able to join full-time as well. So we now have several employees and use a lot of contractors and vendors, and we're a global organization providing high-quality data and AI content.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Is AI going to take my job?
That is the question, the million-dollar question on everyone's mind. And I think the answer is not anytime soon, and probably not at all, at least in our lifetimes, maybe. I think rather than viewing it as whether AI is going to take our jobs, although some folks may be displaced, but I think not many lawyers. I think the real way to view it is lawyers who use AI will replace lawyers who don't use AI. And AI is another tool. So it's something like the email revolution. It's something like internet, where we can't imagine today practicing law without using email or without using the internet. And it's just going to be the same way with AI. AI is going to be integrated in more and more applications that we use every day. So it will be in Microsoft Word. It will be finishing your sentences. It will be making suggestions. It'll be helping you find cases, helping you draft contracts. But it's going to be a helper, and it's not going to be what you use instead of human labor. And I think one of the most exciting use cases for AI is that it's going to take on use cases that are not currently being done at all. So rather than thinking of it as a replacement for what human lawyers are doing today, thinking about how it can do things that are not being done. So for example, for a company that has tens of thousands of contracts, right, you might want to undertake an analysis of certain clauses in those contracts. How are we negotiating these clauses? What have we done in the past? And what have been the outcomes of those situations, right? You're not going to hire an outside law firm to spend thousands of hours doing that, but you might use an AI tool to go through all of those contracts and to basically put that data, which is in an unstructured text-based format, into a more structured format that would be in a database that you could then leverage and uncover insights that you didn't know before. So I think that's one of the most exciting uses of AI in the legal space, of those use cases that just don't even exist today.
So I will say, I read about AI all the time, but I really don't know too much about it, and I'm interested in knowing, okay, what should I be doing as an in-house attorney to learn more about AI so that I can do my job more effectively? Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think it's very important, outside of how we use AI in the practice of law. I think the most immediate impact for attorneys is going to be figuring out how their clients are using AI, because it's starting to expand across all aspects of the business. So one of the things that you need to understand as an attorney, when you are using AI yourself, or when your clients are using AI for various aspects of their business, are what data is being used to feed that AI. So in the case of ChatGPT, it's a large language model, the GPT language model that was developed by OpenAI. And it's basically trained on all of the the entirety of the internet and lots of other documents. So that leads to certain biases. It can lead to certain incorrect results. Large language models also have what we call hallucinations, where they get things wrong, but they're confident in the things that they get wrong. So it can be very hard to discern what's right and what isn't. As businesses start to use generative AI more and more, there are going to be more regulatory issues that pop up. What data can you feed into this model, and where does that data go? Or does it stay behind your corporate firewall, or does it go externally to some vendor, and is it being used to train their model? So those are the kinds of questions that attorneys need to be asking. I think this is why we don't have time today to cover all of those issues, but it's why literacy is so important around this, is that you need to have enough of an understanding to be able to ask the right questions as your clients start to use these technologies, or as your law firms start to use software like even Microsoft Office that's going to have generative AI increasingly baked into it to aid you. You need to understand, well, what exactly is it doing, and are there risks that I need to be guarding against when I'm using this, or things that I need to be aware of as far as where the data is going.
Great. Well, look, it's 11:14. I think we said we were going to open it up to some Q&A from folks on the line. So if anybody has a question for Brian, now's your opportunity. Okay, so the first one's from Stephanie at Home Depot. She wants to know any tips for in-house counsel on managing outside counsel's use of AI to ensure both efficiency and compliance.
Yeah, I think the critical thing with any use of AI, especially in the legal space, is understanding when it has been used. So I think that is really step number one, is if your outside counsel are using AI in any way, you need to know that they are using it, and you need to know what they are using it for, if they're using it on your work in any way. So I think that's step number one. And then you can kind of figure out, well, what are the appropriate policies and safeguards around those use cases? I think AI can be, it's like I say, it's being integrated into a lot of applications. So, if you're using AI features that are in LexisNexis or Westlaw, those can be really helpful. I don't think attorneys should be using ChatGPT for pretty much any legal work. It's just not appropriate for that use case. And I use ChatGPT all the time for various different things. So I love ChatGPT, but for legal work, that's not what you should use. If you're going to use AI, it should be something that's integrated into some kind of application that is dedicated for lawyers. But that being said, I think there are lots of opportunities to start experimenting with various use cases. I think some of the more exciting ones are things like billing right now. You can use AI to as in-house counsel, to manage like your outside counsel legal bills. There are lots of solutions for that kind of use case. So I think thinking about places where, okay, we can increase efficiency, and if the AI is not 100% right, it's fine. It's not that big of a deal. It's not going to cost us anything, and we're getting the efficiency from it. But yeah, in terms of substantive legal work, I think we've got a ways to go before we just let everyone run loose and start doing that. So
it's interesting that you say that, because there's another question here about lawyers using AI from Catherine. And she says, if I had to come up with a potential use case for AI, it would be using AI during depositions to propose follow-up questions based on the deponent's answer. So what are your reactions to that, and what are your thoughts on other use cases?
Yeah, that's an interesting use case. I mean, I think that's an example of a place where AI could potentially aid you in what you're doing. I think this is always going to be the constant challenge with AI and any kind of knowledge work. Is, on the one hand, it's great if AI proposes things that you hadn't thought of. That seems like a great value add. And if you're a competent attorney who's done lots of depositions and you're using it as an aid, that seems great. I think the flip side of that is when you start using it instead of your own knowledge and instead of your own judgment. And it can be tempting to do that when it spits out things that seem reasonable, or even things that are good ideas. But then there are other things that maybe are not good ideas, that if you just take them from AI and don't do your own vetting, then that's a problem. So I think the other piece of that is, if there's anything that would be not public information that's being fed into the AI, the large language model, you do need to have security sort of parameters around that, like having a fire, the AI, the large language model behind your firewall so that your data is not going externally. So I think anytime you do things like that, you need to talk with your in-house IT or data team and say, okay, what platform are we using and where's the data going? Because that's very important to make sure you're not compromising any confidential information.
You guys just hit on one of my questions of, how should in-house attorneys and law firm attorneys, what's the starting point? I guess, Brian, what do you view as the most interesting breakthroughs this year, for applications or what you see coming in the legal field? I know a lot of our clients, have said, hey, we're tracking this, we haven't really jumped into anything big. We hear some law firms, who are getting benefit out of research and starting, on drafting. Those seem to be the ones I've heard about, but what do you see?
Yeah, I think one question that I get a lot is what's the big deal with ChatGPT? Why is this so revolutionary? Why is this much better than everything that came before it? And just to give you some background, so I piloted my first legal AI software maybe almost 10 years ago now. And when I used it at the time, I thought, this has a long way to go before it's useful. It was trained basically on just a handful of provisions that are relevant to M&A lawyers, primarily on really large M&A transactions like change of control provisions. And so that's what it did a good job identifying. I was using it in the context of commercial real estate law, trying to identify clauses in our contracts that were relevant to me, and it couldn't do it. And in order to train it to learn those clauses, you had to feed it 20 different examples before it would even attempt to do that. It just was cost prohibitive from a time standpoint. I think what's revolutionary, what we've seen in the last year or so, is ChatGPT and similar large language models that are trained on massive amounts of information they're much better at being fine-tuned. And so I think that's what's going to be really exciting are kind of the fine-tuned use cases. It's so much easier now and faster to train a large language model on specific types of legal work. And I think it's going to really speed very quickly the adoption of AI to do lots and lots of things and across various different types of practices, because now you can very easily train it to learn new types of agreements, new types of documents that previously couldn't have been done before. So I think we're going to see a lot of vendors pop up in that space, leveraging that foundation of the OpenAI, GPT, large language model, or similar language models to do lots of use cases that previously would have been cost prohibitive to do.
That wraps up the event for today. A further thank you to Brian Mink for joining us and giving some updates and intro on AI and data sciences for attorneys. He's one to follow in Atlanta with their programs and other leadership. And Steve, thank you very much for hosting today. It was very interesting. I hope the breakout rooms were fun and interesting. Ours were. We covered some good ground. So be on the lookout for the next Counsel Connect. If you're interested in joining the section or the bar, please let any of us know. It's a good large group of attorneys and lots of interesting programs across the bar and the corporate counsel section. Have a great rest of your day, and thank you very much.